Now that we've coded a bit and seen the basics of SwiftUI in action, the next few videos are going to be a couple of explainer videos, just kind of talking about how SwiftUI works, kind of in the big picture sense, to help your mindset maybe shift to thinking in the SwiftUI way. And after you have the basic understanding from the next few videos, we'll get back into coding to put those principles into practice. Okay, so this first video is going to be talking about declarative versus imperative. Because if you're coming from the UI kit world, that's likely the methodology you've been using in your previous iOS developer career. Now, like I said, SwiftUI is declarative. It's a whole different way of thinking. And to be honest, this is probably the hardest part of coming from UI kit and learning SwiftUI is getting your brain to switch. Because as I'll explain in a second, like the way you think about things is kind of like flipped on its head a little bit. I know this was like one of my biggest struggles because, I've been doing UI kit for about 5 years now. So my brain is just, in the habit, that muscle memory of just thinking that way. And like I said, you have to change the way you think. I know I said that before, but it's kind of tough to break the habit. And it was only after a lot of practice, a lot of frustration, a lot of headaches that my brain, finally flipped. And to be honest, I don't think it's fully flipped. I still revert back to that UI kit way of thinking sometimes, but I'm getting there. Okay, so I've been throwing out this imperative, declarative words. You may not know what that means, so let's break that down. So imperative, like I said, is the old UI kit way of thinking. And in that methodology, you are specifically telling your UI what to look like all throughout the execution of your program. So that means there's two code paths, right? There's the code path where all your logic is changing, you're changing all your data, and then as you're going along that path, changing everything, at every moment in time, you have to be telling your UI, okay, UI, something changed, now update. Okay, something else changed, update, right? You're managing these two code paths, your logic and your UI, and they always had to be in sync. And that's a lot easier said than done, and this was the cause of a lot of bugs. Well, declarative gets rid of one of those code paths entirely, right? You've heard me mention in the previous videos, all we do in SwiftUI is update our data and our UI responds accordingly. Now that sounds like magic the way I just said it, but here's how it actually happens, right? We declare, or we give all the rules for our UI up front. Right? We give all the possible states our UI can be in. That way, when we change the data, our UI just follows the rules we put in place and shows the proper UI. Now, if that was a little bit confusing, let's go back to our weather app and I'll really break this down. So here we are in the app, and again, super basic example, right? Our only piece of data really is this isNight variable that we flip from true or false. And what I meant by how we set up our UI for all the possibilities up front, well, luckily for this simple example, there's only two possibilities. Isnight is true, isNight is false. And this is what we just did, right? In our background view, let's go to that down here where we built that here, right? So here we are in our background view. We've already set up our UI ahead of time, right? With our gradient, changing our colors based on isNight, it'll be black or blue for the top color, or it'll be gray or light blue for the bottom color, depending on isNight. So again, our UI knows ahead of time every possible state it can be in. We've already set up the rules, right? Same thing for our main weather status view, right? Where we either show the moon or the cloud and the sun. We've set up the rules for both states. It knows it. That's why that code path where you're updating the UI completely goes away. And you don't have to worry about your UI always being in sync, because if you set everything up correctly, all you do is change the data source, the isNight to true or false, and our UI just follows the rules and it knows what to show. So that's just a super basic example with one piece of data, a Boolean true or false, but hopefully that starts to get your mind seeing how declarative UI works versus imperative, right? Where imperative, you are specifically telling the UI when and how to update when the time comes. Declarative, you set all the rules up front, you set all your states up front, and then you just change the data and the UI acts according to those rules. In the next video, we're going to talk about SwiftUI's view trees and how views get updated when we flip the isNight Boolean, to true or false, because it doesn't redraw the entire screen. It only redraws some of it. So that's what we're going to dive into in the next video.